As it turns out, no one actually needs a dagger style blade. How's it going, everybody? I'm Rollshambo, the connoisseur and collector of all things sharp and shiny. And while it might be true that nobody actually needs a dagger style blade, it doesn't keep us from wanting them. They're just freaking cool. There's something really, really nifty about getting a dagger style pocket knife that you can put in your pocket and carry around. And I know that it didn't stop me. If you're wondering where this came from White Mountain Knives, and it is the TwoSun TS307. Now, we've talked our fair share about TwoSun knives, and you should already know they break all the rules when it comes to pricing knives with premium materials, or at least knives with titanium materials. And it's been so ridiculous. It gets actually to the point where people start using it as a baseline comparison. They'll be like, why would I buy that when I can get a TwoSun for this? And why would I buy that? Because TwoSun will sell you this. And no one quite really knows how they do their pricing, how it's possible, but we like it. How much do we like it? Today we find out. Let's check out the TwoSun TS307. So if you like dagger blades, this is your jam. This is the TwoSun TS307, and it is of course in the dagger style blade. Let's go ahead and talk about this one. So yes, it's a TwoSun knife, which means that you get premium materials like titanium. The blade is made out of D2. It has a single-sided captive pivot, which is awesome. It is in fact a frame lock. And then of course it has a deep carry titanium pocket clip. The body screws on here are very minimalistic. You only have 2 on each side, which is great. It's going to make it really easy to go ahead and take apart. Now on that blade, you do get a medial fuller that goes down the center. And in case you were wondering, only one side of this dagger blade is sharpened. The pivot is running on bearings, and it makes that nice snicking sound when you close it. Now, I got this one off of White Mountain Knives. If you want one of your own, go to whitemountainknives.com and use code RSB10 for 10% off your order. Last time I checked, these were in stock, but that does of course change because TwoSun knives tend to sell out quickly because people like having premium materials at a budget price point. If you're wondering how much this one costs just shy of 90 bucks. And do I think that it's worth it with D2 and titanium? Absolutely. You know what this knife reminds me of is the Brian Nadeau Arch Nemesis, but at a price point that everyone can afford, at least everyone that's a serious knife collector. Under 100 bucks is attainable. And for some, while it might not be cheap, for a knife with titanium and good design, it's definitely attainable. I really like the Brian Nadeau Sharp by Design Arch Nemesis, but I've never been able to afford one or see one ever available. So here we are. Now I do have one gripe. My one gripe is that this secondary false edge should be in fact, sharp edge. When you close it, you'll notice that while you could technically stick your finger in there and touch the edge, had that been sharpened down a little bit, I don't think that it would have been a big deal. And I would have personally preferred to have 2 edges on a dagger style blade than 1 if possible. And I think on this one that it was possible. Now with that in consideration, there are certain areas where you have to have a false edge because it's just not legal to have a double-edged dagger. How does it feel in the hands, you might wonder? Well, it feels great. I can get a full 4-finger grip on here, no problem. This cross guard right there acts as it acts as a cross guard, even though it's also the flipper. And because the action is running off of bearings, the action is very, very responsive, flicks right out. And of course it does drop shut and it makes that cool sound. I really like the micro milling on this knife. I think the micro milling is really well done. And in case you want one, you can get one in kind of a lightning anode titanium, a little bit more of a premium version. But honestly, for my purposes, I actually really dig the plain raw titanium look and feel. And I also like how you get this medial fuller all the way down, continued through the handle scales. This knife is just very, very visually appeasing. Now, if I wanted to, could I add a secondary edge to this knife? Well, yes. Yes, I could. And while people complain about how hard D2 is to sharpen, I don't necessarily think it's that big of a deal. I've sharpened M390, I've sharpened 20CV and LMAX, and you know what? I might just in fact put a new secondary edge on this knife. Here's the tough part though. Whenever you're sharpening dagger blades, it's really hard to keep that medial line perfectly centered. To do so, I would have to discover exactly what angle the initial blade is actually set at to make that as even as possible. The satin finish on here is nice, and this does give me kind of a medieval pocket sword kind of vibe, and I actually really like it. The deep carry pocket clip fits in and out of the pocket effortlessly, and the basic handle scale design means that you're not going to have any issues with ergonomics in your hand. I don't feel the pocket clip, I don't feel anything. It's nice and ergonomic. Because it's a dagger blade, even though this secondary edge is a false edge, it's not necessarily comfortable to put your finger behind the spine, I guess you could call that, since it's a false edge. So yeah, that grip is kind of out the window, but for everything else, it's going to work really well, especially for stabbing. You know, if that's your thing. Reverse grip feels good, regular grip feels good, saber grip is kind of a no-go if I'm being completely honest. Action is really good. Love that sound, that click. It's got a good detent. How's it centered? Well, it's bang on center. There's no disappointments there. So ultimately, do I think that this is a good buy at, you know, the $90 and under price range? Absolutely, especially if you're someone who likes dagger style blades. To get this kind of fit and finish and manufacturing prowess, typically you do spend a lot more, so TwoSun has made this a very attractive option for those of you like me who appreciate a good dagger style blade. If you have to have double edge, it's not the end of the world. Just, you know, put this on your knife sharpener and grind out a secondary edge. And I think that that's exactly what I'm going to do, because I can't exactly use this false edge as a comfortable landing spot for my thumb. And so at that point, it might as well go ahead and have a secondary purpose. It might as well have that secondary edge. But ultimately, it's a good knife. It's a great price. TwoSun continues to do its thing. However, let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. Do you like this knife? Do you dislike this knife? Are you against all dagger style blades? And do you wish that it had a secondary edge? Let me know. If you liked the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, boo-hoo. You know what to do. I'll find you in the comments section. And if you want to see more knife content, make sure to hit subscribe. I'm Rollshambo. I'll catch you on the flip side.